Hello, I'm Kamla. My guest today is Mahesh Kale. He trained as an engineer but gave it all up to become a musician. He now teaches classical music, Indian classical music, in the San Francisco Bay Area and has given thousands of concerts all over the world. Welcome, Mahesh.
Thank you so much.
So, do you perform one concert a day or do you have multiple concerts in a day?
It really depends on the season. Sometimes I've done 3 concerts a day, so
Wow, 3
it can
concerts.
get busy. Yeah.
It can. So, how is a typical day in your life?
Typical day in my life, it depends on whether I'm in a teaching mode or whether I'm in a performing mode. Uh, but generally, I get up early in the morning. I do my core exercises in music for about a couple of hours.
It's called Riyaz.
It's called Riyaz or Sadhana. And then I go on the internet, do some correspondences, line up accompanists for my future concerts, and then go back to Riyaz. So basically, to give you a simple example, I always try to live in the musical space as much as I can. Sometimes that space is active singing, and when I stop singing, it is here while I'm doing all my tertiary activities until I go back to active singing again.
How has technology helped you?
A lot. I mean, technology has touched almost all different parts of life now. May it be medicine, may it be astrology, and may it be arts. It has incredibly helped me, especially when I go to India. I continue to teach my students here. I have about 250, 300
250.
students in the Bay Area. And
Wait a minute, you have 300 students?
I've lost the count, but around there, yes.
How do you find the time to teach them?
Well, if someone can run an entire country in the same amount of time, I'm sure teaching 250 kids is not such a big task.
So I interrupted you. You said, so when you're in India, how technology helps you?
So when I'm in India, I continue to teach my students here. So assuming this is where I sit and this is where all my students are, at my home here in the Bay Area, then I have a TV when I leave, right where I sit. And I actually dial in at exactly the same time when I usually teach them in the Bay Area. So they just come to a TV instead of me, and
So it's a
I'm
Skype
in the TV.
call.
Yes, it's Skype. After that, I have set up a wiki page for each batch of students so that they are able to track what they are learning. Then I use WhatsApp to commit homeworks. So I check them whenever I'm around. So
technology has truly helped you. It
Yeah,
has helped you leverage a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Okay. When you do your practice, do you use any sort of technology?
Yeah, I have a tanpura right on here.
What is a tampura?
A tanpura is an Indian drone, which forms the environment that is conducive for Indian music.
Okay. So technology is throughout your life, that is, in your music.
Yeah, it's a facilitator for my art, if that is how, because when I am with music, I'm devoid of everything, not just technology, but everything else. When you sing, you're just in a space where you are creating stuff that is sometimes beyond you and is inspired from what you have lived, what you have learned, what you have experienced. But until you get to that space, technology helps you. You have to understand, I do a traditional art, so a lot of times I have to think of how to not change things. So the technology uses very peripheral, and like I said, it is a facilitator to what I'm doing. But when I'm with the art, I try to keep it as authentic as possible, because when I sit either to teach or to sing, I sit there as a representative of a 2,000-year-old tradition. So to make it relevant and contextual, I use technology, but the core has to remain as it is.
What does music mean to you?
Music is the air that I breathe now. Music is everything. If you actually look at it, everything is music. The harmony that we said, life is in harmony, that harmony is music. So music is It's very hard to say what music means to me because
Can you live without music?
I don't think so.
There you go.
I don't think so. I don't think.
Have you ever lived a day without music?
I was actually traveling with friends on a road trip to the East Coast where we went to the Niagara Falls and all those places. And I actually felt really claustrophobic to not have been able to do music. And I found someone in the New York area and I just went over their place. I barely knew them and we made music. He was a musician. And then I was feeling like, And that's probably why I said music is like air to me, because I actually felt like I am not able to survive.
So you studied engineering.
Yes.
But music was your passion.
Mm-hmm.
So you first started learning as a child, I think, from your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you pursue engineering?
See, I think it is unfair to not do something else because you like something else more. It's like saying, why do you eat another kind of cuisine if Italian is the cuisine you love the best? That means I'll consume Italian cuisine for the most amount of time. But I like many other things. I love life. I love nature. I love travel. I love engineering. I was very good at what I did. But when
But
it
you
comes
did 2 degrees in
I
engineering.
did 2 master's degrees, yes. Exactly what I said. I love, I am full of life. I love to explore. I know there is one common thing that I always gravitate towards at the end of it all, which is music. And hence I continue to be with music. But like I just told you, I try to explore various different facets to aid that music through everything else that I have learned so far.
So you never worked as an engineer?
I don't think I have. I actually worked as an engineer back in India. But I haven't given it up. It has, when you consume food, it becomes a part of your bloodstream. It is very hard to say, oh, this is your bread or this is your rice. I think if you were to look at me, somewhere engineering is there, right along with everything else.
Okay. So you did work as an engineer then?
After I graduated as an engineer in India, I worked for a brief time to be able to earn money for application process here. So I worked for 18 months.
Okay. And then when you came here?
When I came here, then I did my master's in multimedia engineering. Again, it was driven by music, because there's a lot of authentic Indian instruments that are kind of perishing, not because the instruments don't exist, but because the musicians do not exist as much. And what my thought was, if I'm able to model them and put them into electronic instruments like a keyboard, then they will stay for eternity. With that thought, I actually came to do my master's in multimedia engineering at UC Santa Barbara.
Have you done anything in that line?
The problem again that happened was in the bits and bytes, I was not able to find the music I was trying to pursue. So I came close to, so it's a process called physical modeling synthesis, where I tried to, like I said, the tanpura, the drone, I tried to shape a noise into a sound of tanpura. I got decent, if I had worked on it, I would have gotten to it. But then the music inside me would have started to complain, which partially it did. And that's why I decided to just go back to actual singing.
Okay. And what brought you to California?
My master's.
I thought it was your wife.
No, Santa Barbara, I came to do my master's. Actually, me and my wife, we applied together. So she also did her master's. What brought me to the Bay Area is a job that my wife took at Dolby Labs. And I decided to do another master's in engineering management. So that's how I came here.
So now she's the engineer.
Well,
and you're
she's the active engineer. She's also creative. She's been learning for 15, 20 years.
From you?
Initially from someone else, but she continues to learn with me now.
Oh, so both of you are now creatives.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you graduated from Santa Clara University, which is the second master's, you had the opportunity of joining a company and pursue, your engineering degree. But what was the conflict, or what was the thought process that you went through to say that, hey, you know what, I think music is the path I need to pursue? And how did your wife help support your decision?
So the first question that you asked me, I'll tell you what happened is when I always interacted with people at that time, I always have this dialogue when people always say, I wish I had the time to do this, or I wish I did more of this, or I wish life was so simple, then this is all I would do. And I asked myself, what is that I wish I would for me? And it was hands down music. And then I thought, instead of having that remorse of never having tried to live the life that you want to, it is very unfair to do that. And I decided to do music right away without waiting till I'm 60 years old and talk to someone saying, I wish I had done music full time. So that's what changed it. And there was actually one particular concert that was kind of the tipping point for the whole thing. I was in Philadelphia and I was singing in a concert. I was singing a devotional song for Vitthal, who's a very popular god in the western part of Maharashtra, western part of India. So a lady came up to me after the concert and she started to touch my feet. She was probably my grandma's age. And I was obviously very awkward, and I picked her up and she said, I have been living here in America for the last 10 years now, and I'm unable to go back to India. Every year the pilgrimage happened, I used to join it, and I can't anymore. When I heard you singing, I thought I was part of that pilgrimage. So what that did to me is,
So you transported her to...
Well, that's what she thought. I didn't do anything. I was just singing and happy doing what I did. But here's what I realized. When I sing, I'm extremely happy. Enough to not need many other things. Facilitators, sure, for technology and other stuff. And when I sing, I make people happy. And I get paid for it. And I think that is a sweet spot that everyone in this world is trying to do. Doing what you want for the entire... I mean, if you were to close your eyes and dream of what you want to do, and if you opened and if there was a way to do it for the rest of your life, won't you do it? That was music for me, and that's why I did it.
How did your wife support your decision?
My wife was very supportive. Like I said, she is also... She loves music. She's also a musician in her own right. Dolby is another music company, as you know. So she's on the technology side of music. She has wholeheartedly supported me through this process. I think, it's most people think music is a monophilic art where the music is focused only on one person. But I feel it's like, the movie making process. What you see on screen is probably only 5% of the crew that is involved in it. I feel like I'm that movie, but the entire family, my wife, my parents, my friends, all of them are part of that movie, and they are the technical support that I need to make that movie possible.
What was the first concert you gave once you decided, hey, I'm going to pursue music? Was it very difficult to get that first concert? Because now you had to make a business out of it, right?
Yeah, so getting concerts was not difficult at all. I actually had already started to perform right after I came to San Francisco. I'm a student of Pandit Jitendra Abhisheki, a very, very big maestro of Indian classical music. The bigger challenge was, in fact, when I started to pursue, even before when I started to pursue music full time, I used to actually ask the MC to not say I am a master student in engineering, because it kind of gives you a crutch or a benefit of doubt. I wanted to test my own grit without that. So I was used to not being a part-time musician even when I was. So the first concert, I remember one of the bigger concerts was in Seattle. There was, it was a biannual convention, and there were 4,000 to 5,000 people present there. And that is the first time I actually announced, saying, here on I've decided to devote or surrender myself to music, and I seek the blessings from all of you. And it's been great. God has been really kind to me. It's been 10 years now, and I'm still doing music full time.
And you travel a lot.
I do.
Yeah. So one of the things that you mentioned when we had a pre-interview conversation is that you said that your shows tend to be more like mainstream Bollywood shows or other shows where there's active participation from the audience. Now that's not very often in when you think about classical music. You know, there is a certain amount of
Yeah.
people tend to be quiet and they listen
Yeah.
to you very intently. How did that happen?
So they are not quite like Bollywood concerts yet.
But
and
you'd like
they
to
probably
get there?
cannot be, because it's like trying to make Italians food spicy. I go back to Italian food again. But
I
you
think you're
want
partial to Italian food.
You want to, I probably am hungry. But you want to make Italian food, if you want to make it mainstream, you want to make it delicious. And it happened in a few different ways. I actually attended a concert by Andrea Bocelli, the great Andrea Bocelli. I love him, in the HP Pavilion in San Jose.
Which is now known as the SAP.
The SAP Center. And when I was there, he was, you know, just singing very silently, as in he was not doing any antics on stage. There were no dancers around. He was speaking in a language that was not native. It was not in English. It was mostly in Italian language. And still he was able to hold attention of thousands of people. That gave me hope that, I mean, many times it's said that Indian vocal music is not easy to assimilate because of its language barrier. But if he could hold attention of thousands of people, there was a potential for someone else to do it as well. And then I went to another Bollywood concert where the singer was actually involving a lot of people. These are all very popular numbers in Indian repertoire, and everyone already knows the songs and they're swaying with the songs. So what I actually tried to do was I tried to build a bridge between these two things. I was thankful to get a national award, a President's Honor 2 years back for my first film song. And after that I got a lot of attention. And because that song became popular, but was also classical music, I used that as a bridge to connect the old with the new. A lot of youngsters actually end up coming to my concerts now. And because many people know those songs, I start out with the songs that they already know. And it's like, hey, if you like this, then you will like this. And then you'll also like this. And I try to convert them backwards into the traditional art. And it's very reassuring so far. I mean, I have had thousands of people singing along with me, music that they have never heard before.
So which is kind of uncommon.
It's not common at all.
Especially when you think of classical music.
No, it's not common at all. Nobody makes people sing. It's actually a big no-no. But I'll tell you the reason I'm doing it. Because we live in the age and times where we call our big boss as Hey Steve, when it should be Sir Steve Jobs, and Hey Bill when it's Bill Gates. If we are living in that time, I think we need to adapt or make it accessible without losing the dignity that it has. So I ensure that when people sing with me, they sing with utmost respect and attention. They're not dancing around amongst themselves and have formed groups, which tends to happen sometimes in the popular repertoire. So I'm trying to write that bridge in the space, because think most of the times when value meets mass, it's a great space to be. And I want to be in that space.
Now, you also have worked with quite a few well-known San Francisco Bay Area musicians, Zakir Hussain, who plays the tabla, George Brooks, who plays the saxophone, and Kai Eckhart, who plays the bass. What is it that you would like to, why do you work with them, first of all? Because it's you're creating fusion music. Are you okay creating fusion music?
Yes. So one, they live in the Bay Area, but all of these, especially Zakir, is a world-class musician. The reason you make music is, it's like, if there were a really high quality of work that you can do, even if it was in corporate sector. So let's assume Google or Facebook would be that company right now. Obviously, anyone would love to work for Google or Facebook if they were given their choice of job. To me, these musicians are like the Google and Facebook of Indian classic music. They are extremely. To me, Zakir is like a demigod. And to be able to touch and feel and make music with a demigod is not something you get to do every day. Talking about fusion, I feel, it is very hard to claim ownership of notes. And if the notes don't belong to you, it is quite silly to say this is Indian music and we are trying to fuse it with some other music when nothing belongs to you. It comes from all up there. And I feel if you surrender and if you have the right intention, all music that you do will be good to a certain extent, depending on your skill, as long as the intentions are in place.
You've also sung a Michael Jackson song or some song I saw on TV.
Yeah, well, I do that. See, what I decided to do, the good thing was when people started to know me, they liked for what I did, for who I was, so I didn't have to put up a show. So yeah, Michael Jackson, Bryan Adams, Celine Dion, like I said, Andrea Bocelli, they were part of my childhood. Roxette, I remember, Def Leppard even.
Oh, even Def Leppard?
Yeah, of course. So
Metallica?
Yeah, and I don't know how they got to know about it, but I was in a newsroom where there was a bunch of news reporters sitting and they were passing around the mic and I was supposed to field their questions. Out of nowhere, someone said, "We heard that you sing We Are the World." I was like, "Yeah, but how do you know?" He says, "That's irrelevant. Would you sing it for us?" Like, yeah. And the reason I did that was, again, yeah, I won't do that in a traditional concert when I go to perform, but it is a side of me. Like I said, because I like music, because I love music does not mean I do not like engineering. Just because I love Indian classical music does not mean I do not like other kinds of music. So there is only two kinds of music to me, if you were to categorize, good and bad. And that exists in every genre of music.
So you're agnostic. You listen to all sorts of music.
No, I'm not agnostic at all. I am actually very open to all kinds of music.
You love fast cars. What kind of music do you play in your cars?
Oh, it's very slow.
Oh, really?
I'll tell you how it is. If you have to make fast changes, you have to be very peaceful in the inside. Even when you're making fast music, you have to be very peaceful inside. So when I'm driving my fast car, I'm very peaceful inside.
So you listen to Hindustani music?
Yeah, all kinds of music.
Oh, not loud music.
Well, if my hood is off, I have to keep it loud. But not necessarily loud music.
Mahesh, it was such a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for sharing your story and how, you really are very fond of music. It doesn't matter what kind. And I think you rightly said there's good music and there's bad music.
Thank you.
And you like good music.
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching our show. If you missed any of our shows, you can watch them on our YouTube channel. We'll be back again next week with another edition of our show. Until then, goodbye.